This week on Africa Weekly, we take you to Tunisia as it goes head-to-head with palm-killing bugs. We head to Kenya, where specialised dogs have been trained to sniff out smugglers of elephant ivory and rhino horn. And we go to South Africa, where young women are being offered generous study bursaries, but only if they promise to stay virgins. But first, a summary of the stories that made the headlines this week. Thousands of Tunisians mourned victims of Monday's jihadist assault on army and police posts in the country's Ben Gourdan area near the Libyan border, in which 13 members of the security forces and 7 civilians were killed. The authorities claim the attack was masterminded by the Islamic State group. Security has been tightened in the border region, with security forces saying they have killed dozens of jihadists since the attack, which authorities claim is aimed at setting up a new stronghold in the country across the border from Libya. 2 Italians kidnapped last July in Libya were freed in a raid on Islamic State group hideouts in a city near the capital earlier this week. Gino Policardo and Filippo Calcagno were among 4 employees of Italian construction company Bonatti, who were abducted in the Mellita region west of Tripoli. The announcement came a day after Italy said that 2 other nationals abducted at the same time had probably been killed in clashes between jihadists and local militiamen. A UN report has described in horrifying detail the widespread killings, rape and other abuses racking South Sudan, warning that war crimes and crimes against humanity were likely being committed. UN Human Rights Chief Zaid Ra'ad al-Hussein said in a statement that armed militias working with the South Sudanese army were allowed to rape women as payment. This comes in the wake of an Amnesty report which accused government soldiers of deliberately suffocating over 60 men and boys stuffed into a baking hot shipping container in October last year. The international watchdog is calling for the perpetrators to be persecuted for the killings, which the government has denied.
Amnesty International is very concerned that the impunity that has been allowed to flourish in South Sudan is a key driver for the conflict and a key driver that is keeping the conflict going.
A South African woman was convicted this week of kidnapping a newborn baby and raising her for 17 years before a coincidence reunited the girl with her biological family. In February last year, the girl's identity came to light after pupils at her high school recognized her remarkable resemblance to a new starter, who turned out to be her younger biological sister. Without knowing it, the family had been living within a couple of kilometers of their kidnapped daughter, who has since dropped out of school, reportedly due to the trauma induced by the case. Africa's top scientists, policymakers and startups gathered this week for a landmark conference aimed at stemming the continent's brain drain and encouraging governments to nurture research in fields from virology to maths. Organisers of the first Next Einstein Forum held near Senegal's capital Dakar hope to reverse a situation in which Africa's brightest talent feels compelled to move abroad to work at the cutting edge of research and earn themselves a decent salary. Tunisia, a major exporter of dates, is waging war against an insect that kills palm trees and whose spread could be an economic and environmental disaster.
A small potent insect originating from Asia, the red palm weevil. The insect is only a few centimeters long, but has already infected hundreds of trees out of the 30,000 in Greater Tunis.
Before we chop down the date palm trees, we have to treat them for 24 to 48 hours to prevent the spread of the weevil. That's the first step. As a second step, we do a full scan endotherapy by injecting the tree with a resistant residual product.
Injecting this chemical product into infected palm trees can help contain the spread of the insect. The objective, to prevent it from reaching the country's south and its fields of date-producing trees. Tunisia exports 100,000 tons of dates every year, generating a total of 200 million euros. The country's biggest agricultural producer, second only to olive oil.
This year, the region of Tozeur has produced more than 50,000 tons of dates. In another region, Kabylie, production has exceeded 150,000 tons. So with a production of over 200,000 tons in 2 regions, that represents jobs for tens of thousands of people.
The red palm weevils were first spotted as early as 2011, but Tunisian authorities say there's no cause for concern. They've placed pheromone traps around the capital to stop the insect from spreading to date-producing areas. But the red palm weevil has already claimed several victims, including ornamental palm trees. And many now fear this tiny creature could wreak more havoc for the country's agricultural production.
At Kenya's major airports in Nairobi and Mombasa, K9 units are being deployed to sniff out suspected smugglers. But these dogs aren't detecting illegal drugs, explosives or weapons. They're being used to help protect Kenya's elephants and rhinos and to disrupt a multi-billion-dollar international wildlife trafficking industry.
We are in a poaching crisis, and Kenya is amongst the gang of 8 countries.
More than 30,000 elephants are killed for their ivory every year in Africa to satisfy demand in Asia. They sell for about $1,000 a kilogram. While dogs have been used to sniff out wildlife smugglers before, these have been specifically trained.
Its organs of smell are many thousands more developed and capable of discriminating different scents than a human. So it's just a matter of the equipment that it has.
6 dogs operate in the airport, working in shifts to ensure bags are checked 24 hours a day. Illegal wildlife traffickers often hide their goods in passenger baggage, cargo containers, on their bodies or false compartments in vehicles. That's where these animals and their equipment come into their own. The dogs cost about $6,000 each to train and maintain, but the team has already seen some success.
So we made arrest after an arrest after an arrest, and all of them were at night. So, for example, we had on Tuesday we had 2 Chinese. The following day we had another bunch of Chinese. The following day we had another bunch of Vietnamese and Thailand nationalities. So that was quite memorable, and that speaks volumes. If you can arrest consecutively, that's a huge deterrent.
Kenya plans to burn its vast stockpile of 120 tons of ivory next month, 8 times the size of any ivory stockpile destroyed so far. But with ivory poaching on the rise, many fear that large herds of elephants will be wiped out within decades.
These students from KwaZulu-Natal in South Africa have received the Maiden's Bursary Award, meaning their tuition and board are paid for by the district, provided they remain virgins. The scheme has sparked national outrage, but these young women are grateful to have the opportunity to help them study.
It made me feel proud if I'm going and doing some things, because I know everywhere I go, I'll be just a beautiful mirror to other persons, and they'll just like I'll be like their role model, and they'll love me a lot because they know that I'm pure, and it keeps me vulnerable from other infections as well.
The community also sees the bursary as a way to revive a feature of Zulu culture. Dudu Zwane is one of the elders in charge of carrying out so-called virginity tests.
There's something closing the hole. There's something closing the hole like this to the 16-year-old, like this. And to the 18-year, it's like this. To the 19, to the 20 is totally closed.
Many organizations have branded the bursary as invasive and unconstitutional, and the district's mayor, Dudu Mazibuko, has been the main target of criticism. But she insists that it stems from prevalent health issues. Half her district's 15 to 49-year-olds are infected with HIV. Teenage pregnancies are another problem to contend with.
2, 3, or even 4 children at the age of 25. So we need to do something as a country, as a society.
But many disagree with her methods. The Minister of Social Development has weighed in on the debate.
The fact that communities support virginity testing, it's because communities always judge women.
Despite the backlash, the mayor remains wedded to her views, promising to extend the scheme to boys who also want to be rewarded for staying virgins.
Next week, we meet the man from Malawi who has high hopes for his homemade helicopter that he is determined can fly. That's all from us at Africa Weekly. Until next week.